Okay, so if you're already in the media or on social media, of course, you already know about the new National Housing Fund, which is a new law that the National Assembly has put together, sending to President Buhari to sign. The new law seeks to repeal the National Housing Fund Act of 1992. The new law now looking for additional ways to mobilize fundings for the financing of housing projects in Nigeria. But this is one big elephant in the room, as big as it can get. How is this money going to come through? And we advise everyone to listen and listen very carefully. Each bag of cement, according to the proposal by the National Assembly, will have a new levy of 2.5% on the price, which means you're going to pay more for cement prices. Number two, 2.5% of your salaries, whether you're in the public sector or private sector, or you're a roadside mechanic or vulcanizer, you'll have to pay 2.5% of your earnings into the new National Housing Fund, and all these are compulsory. And of course, what you get is just about 2%, just about 2% interest rate annually. Banks, insurance companies, pension fund administrators will invest 10% of their pre-tax profit at 1% above interest rate payable on current accounts by banks. Number four, the government will now make additional contribution and grants into the National Housing Fund as the federal government deems fit. So it's at the discretion of the federal government, but taxing the people for the NHF is not at the discretion of you. Employers in public and private sector, you have to make these monthly deductions from salaries and wages and send them to the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria. If President Buhari signs it, that may have to take immediate effect. Meantime, the central bank will collect those 10% from the banks at the end of each financial year. National Insurance Commission will collect 10% from insurance companies' pre-tax profit every year. PENCOM will collect on behalf of all the PFAs and remit it to the Federal Mortgage Bank. Federal Inland Revenue Service, that's what today Fowler, will collect the 2.5% levy on cement from all the manufacturers and those who import cement as well. So if you are into cement importation, you also pay the 2.5% levy. And there are very stringent punitive actions for anyone who fail to collect and remit these contributions and levies. You may lose your operating license, and you have fines of 100 million for corporates and 10 million naira for individuals if you fail to comply. Meantime, if you are a contributor into the new NHS fund without outstanding loans, which you have to pay back, you're up to 60 years of age, or you spent 35 years in service, you're entitled to a refund of your contributions at just 2% of your money if you have contributed for 35 years. If you apply, you can get it within 3 months. So who's going to manage the new money? Federal Mortgage Bank will collect and lend to primary mortgage bank, what you call the PMBs, and then to you individual contributors and developers. Quite a mouthful, isn't it? Hold on a second. Let's get a bit more sense and break it down with Taiwo Udele, who is a partner at PricewaterhouseCoopers or PwC in Nigeria, and is also in charge of tax and corporate advisory services. Taiwo, it's good to have you. This is one big story on the street for the last couple of days. What's your first word on this?
I think my first word would be, this is not the way to make laws. I don't think that we have taken enough steps to even do an impact analysis. It's simple to simply say, let's get people to pay more, contribute more, levy a tax on cement, without really thinking about what impact would this have ultimately on the core objective of the NHF.
May I continue respectfully here?
Yes.
When you say impact analysis, to assess the impact of the National Housing Fund, either to 2018 and then the new ocean.
Absolutely. So it's both ways.
So we look backwards?
Yes. No, we have NHF now since 1992, like you rightly said. That's 27 years. So in 27 years, what do we have to show for it? You have to tell us by way of accountability, by way of reporting, this is what we have done with the money we have been able to mobilize. If only we had more, we would have been able to do more. So please contribute more. Maybe people would understand. As we speak, I'm not aware of any figures or numbers anywhere.
NHF was saying perhaps they've done about 195 billion, according to some media reports, they've done about 195 billion naira. But again, if you ask the common man on the street if he has a roof over his head over these years.
Yeah, yeah. So if you say 195 billion in 27 years. So look at Pencom, for example. They've been around since 2004. Yeah, less than half of that time. They're at about 7 trillion. And even Pencom is not applicable to everyone. There's a threshold. This one has no threshold. I know it's a lower rate. So the question is, the 195, how reliable is that? What is the number? It's not just about the amount of money you mobilize. How many housing units have you made available, especially to low-income earners? We don't have those reports. Part of the requirement of the NHF Act is that you provide accounts to the CBN and also to contributors. I'm a contributor. I haven't seen any accounts. So accountability is a major issue.
One of the look-back issue was that collection over the years for NHF, which is a warehouse inside the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria, had been very poor, that state governments and others had been very poor in compliance since 1992.
So here's the thing in Nigeria. So we pass laws and we don't always enforce compliance fully. So the few of us who are compliant, the nice guys, get punished again because you then raise the rate so that they can contribute more.
Because you're going to get additional about 2.5% of your salary?
Yes. So it used to be 2.5% of your basic salary. Now they're increasing it to 2.5% of your total monthly income. Now,
hold on a second. Income means if my wife gives me some money.
No. It means your gross salary. So the way it is in Nigeria generally is your basic salary is a component of your monthly pay. You have housing allowance, you have transport allowance, some have wardrobe allowance, inconvenience allowance, hardship allowance. There are all manner of allowances. In most cases, the basic salary is as low as 5% of what you earn in a month. So if you work for an organization where your basic pay used to be 5% of your monthly pay, this is a 20-fold increase in the amount you have to contribute monthly. So this is significant. And it's also applicable to self-employed persons, whether you're SME, whether you're MSME. It doesn't matter whether you make sales or not.
The man on the street.
The man on the street. This affects everybody. So the question is, why don't you get this state government and federal government and everybody to comply with the existing percentage of basic salary we have to contribute, rather than punish the few of us who are doing the right thing to now contribute more, despite the fact that we're saying in the past 27 years, really can't see significant
improvements. This is an outgoing National Assembly. They have about 60 days to go, and they're passing this huge impact-heavy law on the 11th hour of their departure from the chambers. Who is behind this law?
Yes, so there are 17 lawmakers behind this. And I thought maybe it was quite interesting. Why is suddenly this law one of the most important in Nigeria, that you have 17 lawmakers sponsoring this? And the fact that we do not have sufficient stakeholder engagement also calls for concern. Because really, this is, if you're talking about housing, according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory, this is only next to water and food. So it's so important and it impacts everybody. So therefore, you should carry all stakeholders along. In many countries around the world, like the US, Canada, or Australia, you find even the real estate sector, which is an extension of housing sector, provides not only the largest contribution to GDP, but also the highest employer of labor. In the US today, the real estate sector is the largest sector of the economy. It's more than 5 times Nigeria's economy. So this is very significant, and it's in the interest of everybody, but it has to be done in a way that overall the impact on the society and on the Nigerian economy is positive, not negative.
Now, we're looking at what you call the devil in the details, as it were. You go into the new law. The National Assembly is saying President Buhari should sign a new housing fund document that would charge me 2.5% of my monthly income on one hand, and the cement, which I'm going to buy, it's also being, I'm going to pay another levy on the manufacturers, so Dangote and the rest, CCNN, Boa Group and all that. They'll pay 2.5% on the cement I'm going to buy, and you've already taken 2.5% again from me for my salary. Balance the books for me.
Yeah, you know, it's difficult to balance. Really, you know, it's a contradiction that on one hand, you want to make affordable housing available to people, and then you impose a levy on cement.
Which is a major component.
Absolutely. So I do not understand how to add the mathematics up. But what I can say is that there's this tendency in Nigeria that if any sector is successful, people want to levy more taxes on it, as if it's a crime to be successful. Just because Nigeria is almost getting to a point where we're self-sufficient with cement
production.
The same thing, like, well, that's what they do with telecommunication, that's what we do with banking, and those are the sectors you focus every time.
Okay, so let's go to the banks, because the banks and insurance,
yes.
For example, the central bank is just imposing new or setting new regulatory capital threshold for microfinance banks. I'm not sure if they're included in this, but for insurance, for PFAs and for banks, they have another 10% to contribute from their pre-tax profit. Not even net, but pre-tax.
Yes. The point again is that when it comes to tax policy, people need to understand, this is what I call the golden principle 101. All taxes, regardless of the base, regardless of who is making the direct payment, all taxes are borne by real people. So when you say you levy a tax on a bank, pre-tax profit of 10%, what you are doing is you're denying the shareholders of the returns they should earn on their investment. So this is a tax on shareholders.
Should we complain, therefore, when banks pay peanuts on savings and current accounts?
Of course, because what it also means is that the cash flow available to banks for other investment and other lending will be reduced, so the cost of borrowing will go up. And because the return on investment for shareholders of banks and insurance companies will go down, it means that the shares will be less attractive, and you expect a negative impact on the capitalization of those stocks. And the banking sector and insurance is a significant percentage of the capital market. So expect an overall negative impact.
So if we hit the banks, we hit insurance, and we hit PFAs.
Indeed.
That's I need to make a call to my pension manager.
Yes.
I say, excuse me.
Yes.
How much damage or dent will this make in my pension portfolio? But again, look at if I made contributions. So let's assume that President Buhari signs this off, and I'm not sure if this new legislation by the National Assembly is in line with President Buhari's housing policy, which he's been pursuing, again, basically through the Ministry of Power Works and Housing, which, of course, affordable housing and what have you. But if I'm a contributor, and then I'm 60 years old, I'm heading to that direction. I don't know how old you are, but if we have done 35 years,
yes,
we're going to get this money back at just about 2%
per annum.
I'm going to save all that money for just 2%?
Let me put it in context for you. The best way to look forward is to first look backwards. If you look back 35 years ago, that's 1984, if you contributed 1 million naira in 1984, it was equivalent to 1.3 million US dollars. If you get 2% per annum, compounded annually for 35 years, which is today, your 1 million naira is now 2 million naira, exactly 2 million naira. The 2 million naira converted to dollars is $5,600. It's less than 1% of the amount you contributed 35 years ago. In other words, the commercial income on your investment has been taxed 100%. Your capital has been taxed 99%. As far as I'm concerned, you're getting nothing. So this is very impactful, and somebody needs to think about it carefully. In 1992, when the NHF was established, commercial interest rate was around 7%, and the law says you get 4%. The margin wasn't even wide. Today we are talking about interest rate around 19, 20%, and you offer 2%. I think it's just unfair on the people of Nigeria.
Okay, this is as nasty as it can get. I want to put it very, very. So it looks like since this hit the street a few days ago, there have been so many angst on the street. What have you been hearing across the markets, across companies about what this National Assembly's housing policy legislation will do and how to move forward?
I think we do not have enough people already who are aware of this. Which I don't know whether it was done intentionally by the National Assembly not to engage the people to know about this. Take, for instance, Labour has been spending their energy and time trying to negotiate a new minimum wage. And part of what they're trying to do is to go to the tax authorities to say, you know what, can you exempt us from paying taxes on the minimum wage because it's not enough? Guess what? This National Housing Fund bill, if it becomes a law, people who earn minimum wage will pay 250% of what they'll pay in personal income tax by way of PAYE into this fund. So this is more than twice as damaging to their income. But they're not saying anything about it.
So the new minimum wage is already being dented?
Absolutely.
Or will be dented by this new bill by the National Assembly?
250% of the amount that you pay in taxes.
Of the new, whether it's 20,000 or 25 or 30?
Or 30, yes.
Whenever you get it?
Yes. The minimum wage people are more impacted. This is why we think that this proposed law is regressive, because it punishes people who are the lower end of the income ladder. And by the way, these are also people who are very unlikely to get any forms of loan from the NHF, because for you to get any loan from the NHF, they need to project your income and see your ability to repay the loan. If you earn 18,000, the Labour Act says the maximum we can deduct from your income monthly is 1/3. So which means, assuming you pay no other statutory payment, we take 6,000 from you, you have up to 30 years to pay back. It's not even up to 2 million naira. What can you build with 2 million naira? So the maximum you can even get is 2 million naira, even if you're lucky to access it. So the question is, if I'm unlikely to get a loan to build a home, why punish me if I'm already one of the most vulnerable people in Nigeria? So from a policy perspective, we need to take a step back and say the purpose of the NHF is not to make affordable finance available, it is to make affordable housing available. The fact that even the cost of borrowing is affordable does not mean that the ultimate delivery of the home will be affordable, right? So why don't we think about things that are not very conventional? How about pallet homes? How about outbuildings? How about containers? You know, we have different, unfortunately, you know, the cost of building a house in Nigeria is one of the most expensive in the world. The NBS, National Bureau of Statistics, conducted a survey in 2015 and found out that it would cost almost twice as much to build a house in Nigeria as it would in India, about 30% more than in South Africa. Unfortunately, which is also an irony, on the other hand, we're one of the poorest nations in the world. So very expensive to build a home, poor people. How do you bridge the gap? So we have to be creative. We have to think about fixing the policy environment, fixing regulation around land and properties. These, I think, will have more impact than the affordable finance they're trying to get at any cost.
Okay. Should President Buhari sign this document?
Capital N-O. The President Buhari will be doing a disservice to Nigeria and to Nigerians by signing this bill. I think we need to go back to the drawing board and say, what have we been doing in the past 27 years? No, if you can't manage 1 billion well, and you say, anyway, if you make it 10 billion, I'll suddenly do better. Why am I supposed to trust you with 10 billion if you can't manage 1 billion well? So we need to actually, so the 195 billion they said they have been able to mobilize, tell us how you spent the money. How much is the operating cost? Who got the loans? For what purposes? By the way, also, NHF is supposed to make funds available for even renovations of homes. So today, they have a cap of 1 million naira, which you would never even get.
I think some folks on Broad Street, I don't want to mention names on radio and television advertising, you can get up to 4 million. If you want to equip your home and renovate.
From NHF?
No.
Okay.
I think some financial service providers.
Maybe from other people.
Yes, some financial service providers are all making all advances every place. You want to get married, you want to buy new cars, you want to renovate your home.
The rates are ridiculous.
Yeah, the rates are ridiculous. So it's a very hostile and very, what I call a microwave economic environment. You know the microwave?
Yes.
Yeah, you just... They just put some naira inside it, and you just turn it on, and you just get bombed. And before you take a leak and come back, it's all gone.
Yeah.
So it's very, very tight here. But again, this conversation will continue some other time. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure.
We appreciate your comments and raising the curtain, as it were, in this conversation that's already getting everyone's attention. We'll be right back into Watching Business Morning.